No, not real politics, but adding a little diplomatic intrigue to your D&D campaigns is something a lot of DMs attempt, but just aren't sure how to hit the mark. Can you really introduce the type of scheming, layered political drama of something like Game of Thrones without boring your players with lore dumps and assembly meetings? Of course you can. Here are some ways you can add some political intrigue to your games while still keeping it fun for everyone. D&D is a game all about making choices. Your players want to have a real impact on the story and world. If your campaign revolves around slaying dragons and epic adventure, then having a well-loved monarch who rules a stable kingdom with so many allies is a perfectly fine backdrop for your sessions. But if you want politics to play a major role in the story, you need to introduce some conflict. Maybe that respected queen just got assassinated, and their heir is making lots of unpopular changes. Or two nations are on the brink of war, and the backroom deals between their prominent lords and ladies could tilt the tide one way or the other. There could be tensions between the council that rules this city and the religious group who are gaining more and more sway among the population. Letting the party come in at a critical point in the world's politics will give them the chance to influence the outcome, and give them a reason to get involved in the first place. But let's say your campaign doesn't revolve around political conflict. Sure, it's important, but you want that stuff to come later in the game. Even if the quests your players are tackling mostly involve monster fighting and loot grabbing, you can still wrap all those adventures in civic intrigue, as you build to a larger, politics-focused arc. Normally, the local guards would absolutely handle clearing out those kobolds. But most able-bodied fighters have been conscripted into the army as the king prepares for war. The queen's funeral procession is passing through town, and both of her children will be there vying for support to be the new ruler? Well, that means we really can't have that flock of sturges coming out each night and causing havoc, can we? Even if the player's main focus is killing the necromancer with an ego problem, by slowly introducing whatever political conflict is going on in the background, it'll make them getting involved later feel like a natural evolution of the story. Plus, you won't have to dump a bunch of exposition and explanations on the party once they do reach that point, which is pretty nice. If you live in the US like me, you're represented in Congress by 100 senators. But how many can you actually name? Probably not that much, but outside of your own state, you should really learn those too. You can get by with only knowing the major players, those politicians who speak on behalf of their party and beliefs, often holding sway over other members of the group. Same goes for D&D. If you expect your party to memorize dozens of noble houses, kings, queens, lords, and ladies, good luck. This is a game, not homework, so having a couple of key figures who represent larger groups will make it way easier for your players to keep up with everything going on. And as you introduce more important figures in the future, it helps when you can relate them back to those major players. In Game of Thrones, you don't need to remember every house's exact leader or identity, but whether or not they're loyal to the Starks or the Lannisters. You can say the same for D&D. And yes, you can always make things more complicated as you go. Not every conflict is neatly split into two sides, but by focusing more on the big picture rather than each individual piece, you'll make it a lot easier for your party to follow along and keep track of who they're aligned with and who they're up against. One easy way you can introduce your party to those major players is to have them attend some sort of fancy event. Planning out a wedding, gala, jousting tournament, or feast gives the party a chance to meet all those important politicians in a natural setting, rather than having to come up with a new reason for introducing them one by one. And of course, every social event is an excuse to make backroom deals and discuss nefarious plots, which your players can try to learn about or even get involved in. Because violence is generally frowned upon at these kind of things, it's also an opportunity to give the party goals that require more than killing a big monster with swords. Spying on guests, planting evidence, stealing documents, and uncovering secrets could all require the party to put on their thinking caps and use skills, spells, and abilities they might not always default to. Plus, it's an excuse for the party to buy fancy clothes, and if you don't think they'll have fun with that, just wait until the barbarian starts describing his new ascot. In a similar vein, because a lot of politics are done with words instead of swords, this is a great chance to introduce some role-playing challenges to your campaign. Things like debates to sway noble lords, stumping for elections with the common folk, or defending certain individuals in a court of law encourage the party to put down their weapons, get in character, and really think about what arguments, logic, and appeals they can use to sway people to their side. But be careful, you do not want this to turn into a persuasion contest, where the party sits back and lets the bard roll 34s until they win. The best challenges will involve all the players, and reward them for taking the time to do research or connect with others. For example, a debate before the King's Council might require 3 speakers for each side, and if the players bring up points that they learned will resonate with the king, they can get advantage. Or if the party needs to gather votes for an election, require them to split up and try to connect with different populations. How they approach a tavern full of miners in a busy district of jewelers might be pretty different. The goal is to get them thinking in ways that are different from a typical session, not just mindlessly rolling their way to victory. But maybe you do want some of that traditional D&D fun mixed in with political intrigue. How can you balance both? Well, in the US, our politicians love to engage in a little something called quid pro quo, giving favors in exchange for future ones down the line. While that's sad, go America, it's a great way to give your players more action-oriented side quests while adding to their political plots. An influential lord might be able to set them up with an audience for the king, if the party can track down his daughter who went missing on the road. The head of the Mages Guild will absolutely convince some nobles to join their cause, if they can close the portal he accidentally opened in his study. Earning and swapping favors makes it easy for the players to still influence the political landscape while getting to roll initiative and go adventuring too. But above all else, I hope you remember this. D&D is supposed to be fun. You can take every suggestion in this video and chuck them into your game, but you'll never fit a square peg in a round hole. You know your players, so try to lean into the things you all find fun. If your players would rather fight than chat, build in more side quests to earn favors, and give them plenty of secret tasks at the Winter Gala. If they love digging into lore and role-playing, you can absolutely come up with a web of allies, enemies, and deception for them to unravel. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, but when you find that balance between your fun and theirs, everyone will have a better time. That's it for this one. I'd love to hear how you add political intrigue to your games of D&D in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like is always appreciated. If you want to see more, you should subscribe to the Bard's College. I make videos all about D&D, DMing, and everything in between, so stick around. But for now, good luck, and remember, crit your players.